Welcome to the Alfresco Android session. I'm Jean-Marie Pascal. I'm the Alfresco Android developer. Today I want to welcome to the Alfresco Android session. I will explain you what I have done since for 1 year. And I want to present you not everything because it's really deep, it's really, I don't have enough time to explain everything. So I prefer to begin this session by presenting my guide. It looks like a guide where you can find nearly everything you need. It's not very detailed, but if you want to start implementing Alfresco inside an Android device, it's a really good start to pick everything you need to go directly to a specific page and say, okay, we have to start with this part. So about me, I'm the Jean-Marie Pascal. I'm the Alfresco Android developer for 2 years now. I developed the Android SDK and Android application. And before that, I was an Alfresco integrator in IT services. And I worked for more than 4 years implementing, installing, and customizing nearly all versions of Alfresco. So this presentation is divided into 4 parts. First, we are going to explore very quickly what is possible to do with the Android application and SDK. Then we will go deeper inside it, explain it exactly what's inside. Then one question that everyone in this room maybe wants to know is how I can extend, how I can customize my application, the SDK, to build my own version of Alfresco Android. And finally, just some links to what I call a survival guide. If you have something, if you forget something about Android and Alfresco, you have to look this specific guide. So first, how to plan your trip inside the Alfresco Android. First of all, Alfresco Android is divided into 2 parts. The main goal is for nearly every Android device that exists in this world, we want to connect to any Alfresco server that exists. To do that, we have an application that is based on top of our Alfresco SDK. The goal is simple. We want to retrieve 5 top things that correspond, that is specific to Alfresco. We want to retrieve all of our documents, all of our tasks, sites, favorites, and person inside our Android device. This story we released for the 1.0 version has been released nearly at the same time last year, in November, December. We released first the document management. So it was just only how to retrieve information based on CMIS protocol. Then, version after version, we try to implement and we try to expose more information about sites, about person, about workflow. We want to expand the number of features we want to display and want to use for the mobile users. The last one has been released yesterday, sorry. It's the Android 1.3. Inside it, we have some new really cool features. The most one is the user profile, task and workflow, distribution policy, and SNOT editor. Another thing to know is we run the Alfresco application and Alfresco Android SDK runs since Android Honeycomb, so Android 3.0, to the latest one, Ice Cream Sandwich, KitKat, and Jelly Bean. The language we support nearly now all European languages, from English, French, German, Italian, and Spanish. The population, what you must know, it's the Android application runs nearly on all kind of device. We have some stats that explain the Android application runs on a smartwatch, runs on specific MP3 players, or large device, even on USB key. So it's really, we are very flexible. We can run nearly on every device model, and we are used by a lot of people. It's really the most important part. We often listen, we often hear that Android is fragmented. Indeed, it's fragmented, but it's not a bad point, it's a very good point, because when you are fragmented, you can be used by anything, anywhere. It's not just one device that fits for all, it's really, you have a specific needs, you have a specific requirement, it's possible inside an Android device to do this. Then the license. If you want to use the Android SDK, the application, it's nearly everything is based on Apache licenses. So it's possible to reuse it as you want, when you want. It's not necessary to call us and say, okay, can I use it? Be free. It's available on GitHub, just for Kit, and it's up to you to do nearly everything. The only things we have to be aware, it's, for example, on the Android 1.3, we use the Samsung Mobile SDK. It's some specific feature developed for Samsung devices. This SDK is not Apache free, so you have to use with caution. So that's why you have to be aware of that. So for users, if you want to start with the Alfresco application, just go to the Play Store, search for Alfresco, download it, and play with it. If you are integrators, the good starting point is the website developer.alfresco.com, where you can find nearly all information you need to start implementing your own Alfresco mobile application or using the Alfresco SDK. And if you are developers, if you really love source code and know everything about both SDK and app, just go to GitHub, fork it, just extract it, play with it, customize it, crash it, do everything you want. It's totally free, it's totally perfect. So now let's go deeper inside on how Alfresco mobile and app is defined. So where we are, when you go in an overview inside Alfresco, we are exactly a client. We are a client like anyone else, but we used just the mobile to display our information. We are based on mobile SDK, and the idea is we use only REST API from Alfresco server or CMIS API. The idea is simple. We release 3 different parts, 3 different types of information. It's the APK, so it's the application package for Android. We have 3 different applications, one for testing purpose, the official one that we release on Play Store, and a beta application to do our internal release and say if everything goes right. On bottom, we have 3 Android library that can be used in external application, and that the application use to implement some information, some widget, some screen to display information and to display what the application needs. And on bottom, we have 3 different Java library that can be used nearly on any application that can bind the application to the Alfresco server. It's the one that is responsible to transfer information, to deal with information. If you want to go more places, we have on top the 3 components, one APK, one APK lib, and the Samsung extension that consists and then make our application, the official Alfresco application, and on bottom of that, you have the UI component, the sample app that is responsible for the tutorial, for example. And we have a bunch of jar files that deal with information from the Alfresco server. So now let's have some focus on Alfresco Android application. So I'm going to show you a small video that explains the main feature available on Android 1.3. So the idea, you go to a specific site. Now it's possible to list all members of your site. So it's possible to list who is member, what level of member he has, and what is really important when you are on mobile, it's you have access to other applications. You have access to specific features that is not very available on desktop application or web application. So you have all information about your person. So if you are on mobile, you can call this person. You can call the number of the telephone number or the mobile number. If you have the Skype application installed, you can Skype this person because we have the information so we can interact with other applications. What is really important, it's because you can retrieve nearly all information about this person and you have inside your device an agenda or a contact list. It's possible also to import this specific person to your contact list and to have more information, to have more contact and have some interaction with this person in the future. So you can nearly sync information from this person to your device. So now what I want to present is how to start a workflow. The main feature of Android 1.3, it's the capability to start a workflow. So we support by default in Android application the built-in workflow that is present in plain vanilla Alfresco server. So it's possible to enter some information that you already know if you have already deal with an Alfresco workflow. So it's possible to select multiple documents. So you can pick and choose from where you want to pick those documents. So it can be from favorite folder, sites, or a specific folder inside your company home or your document hierarchy. Then you can select users that you want to be assignee of this specific task. So here I assign this task to myself, to the user that use the application. I change the priority and then I start my review task. Then if I go to the main menu, if I go to the specific new one menu, I have access to my active task. Here we have the list of active tasks I assigned to me. Here, when you select one, you have access to all information about this task. So it's what's the priority, which person is assigned, what the document is assigned to this specific task. For your information, it's also possible to start a task without a document. So if it's an ad hoc task, you can just say, okay, I want to assign a specific task. Because we use the activity engine, for example, on latest 4X server, it's possible also to display the activity diagram. It's also possible to retrieve all information about the history of the task or history of the workflow. When it's possible, when you can select an action to approve or reject a specific action. Or if it's an ad hoc task, just, okay, this task is done, for example. Next, so it's possible to select and choose the task you want to achieve. We have, of course, the preview, the thumbnail preview that is possible. And one really interesting features we implement in Android 1.3 is the capacity to filter all the tasks that are assigned to you, for example. So we have predefined built-in filter, and you can select, for example, I want this specific task I want all tasks with a high priority task. Or if you want a very specific one, you can just select with what is called the My Filters information and some filters criteria you want to apply to select, for For example, I want a specific all active task that is assigned to me with a low priority, and we can even add due tomorrow or in 2 weeks or a specific date. And with that, the user can really be more precise, be more focused on specific information that is required, for example. And of course, if you want to interact with, for example, the initiator of the task, instead of don't know everything, just the username, you have simply to click to the username profile, to the user profile, and say, okay, I want to interact with you. I'm going to send an email to you and say, can you provide me more information, for example. So another cool feature, very specific feature, it's now on tablet device, it's possible to resize the left panel. So further you increase the space, the further the preview is going to be bigger and have more information. It's a new pattern that we implement to display a kind of gallery view, to display more information and to have more capability to see what the specific image is, etc. We also implement in the preview part, on the right panel, for example, the capability to zoom in. So if you pinch, if you zoom, or if you double tap, you can zoom in, you can browse and be more interactive with your content and with your document. And I think that's all for the demonstration. We go back to the main one. There are some other features that I didn't show you in this video. It's around search. Now it's also possible to search a person, a specific person, because now we have user profile, we can search the specific person, people. It's also possible to search a specific folder. So you now have a search selector that say, okay, I don't want to search a specific document, but a specific folder globally in my Alfresco server. One specific feature that I can't show you because it doesn't run on emulator, and if you want to see in action, please come in the Alfresco demonstration booth in the lobby, and we will display you what the Samsung S Note editor. So Samsung has a specific S Pen feature for some tablets and for the Galaxy Note 10, and it's possible to do some drawings, some kind of what I called PowerPoint Lite, and you can create merely a presentation, some notes, and have something really cool to see. And this other one, it's the security, what is called the distribution policy. So for example, a user from the server can tell to the specific document, I don't want that this document go outside the device. So it's only present on the device, so it's not possible to download it and take inside your device. One question we have often, it's what's the difference between Android and iOS application for Alfresco? Since Android 1.3, it's clearly nearly the same. We have, in terms of feature, we are the same feature. The only part is because the Android application is based on the Android SDK. We have more features than the iOS one in terms of editing, edit properties, and more features based on CMIS. So now, one tips, it's if you start an Android application, please do this kind of schema to display the navigation across your screen and across your fragment, your activities. It's really important because sometimes you see some round in terms of navigation, and that can lose the user experience and how the user feels the application. So this one is really, really important. Try to be more simple. Try to avoid some cross between the navigation with your screen. If you go then to the Alfresco application source code, you will find 4 different major parts. You have the activity. An activity in Android, it's the screen in general that display the information, and inside this screen, inside this activity, you have a bunch of fragments. Generally, the fragments on tablet, for example, it's what is displayed on left side, on the left panel, and what is displayed on the right panel. It's something that is really independent and then can be mixed, merged inside the specific activity. So if you go to the source code, you will see a package that is called activity and a bunch of packages that is called and prefixed with fragments. And inside it, we will find the different pieces of the application. The main difference between on top, the component on top and the component on bottom, it's the thread. When you use and when you implement in Android an application and some features, you have to be aware of the difference of between the UI thread and the background thread. If you do everything in the UI thread, so for example, if you do some HTTP request on the UI thread, you are going to block the user experience. So the screen is freeze, the user can do nothing, and you have what is common that is called an ANR, so application non-responses, and it's not very good. So you have clearly to define a border between these 2 components and the 2 on bottom, that it's called the asynchronous task. So it's something that is run on the background thread, so it's totally independent of the UI thread, and it's in this part that you can use the Alfresco SDK to create your session, to create and to request some Alfresco service, to retrieve some information, to display some information from the server, and then when all information is in good state, you can display and you can send this information to your fragments or to your activity for the users. So next, the second part, so the Alfresco Android SDK. What you have to know is the Alfresco Android SDK is not just one application, just not one part or one component. It's divided into 3 components. We have a sample application that is here to help you to find a simple implementation based on our SDK, to try to extend it or just for tutorial purpose. We have a library of UI components, so it's an APK lib library, where you can find, for example, the list of all your documents, the list of all versions. It's a widget that is ready to use. It's a fragment that is ready to use, that you can implement directly to your application to create a new specific screen, for example, or specific fragment. And because they are very simple, it's easy to extend and less complicated than the application side. And of course, the foundation one is the client API. It's a jar file that you can use and to interact and to retrieve information from the Alfresco server. The client API, what's the main purpose we have implement this client API? It's because we have to support a long range of Alfresco server. We have to support the history of Alfresco, that's all. We have to support between a 3.4 and the cloud. There's a big difference in terms of API. The API is not always the same. It has different format, it has different parameters. And what we want to achieve, it's not your job to deal with that. It's my job. The job is to make simple your life, and you don't care about how Alfresco implements their API. I just want to provide you the simple API that is available to just, for example, for the workflow is really different between a 3.4 based on GBPM engine, or 4.x that can be based on activity or GBPM, or the public API for the workflow on cloud with the hybrid stuff, etc. So the idea is you have just to do one specific call, one specific request. It's I want the workflow services, and I want to start a process. I don't care how parameter I have to deal with it. So that's why we need this unique API model. Another part, it's if you follow the history of CMIS and the implementation of CMIS inside Alfresco, you know that there's not only one endpoint there. For the 4.2x, we have nearly 3 endpoints. The first implementation of CMIS in Alfresco was based on web script implementation. And we have the endpoint Alfresco service CMIS. Now, because CMIS it's a standard and it's recognized by OASIS, we have a specific implementation in Apache repository that is called Apache Chemistry. And this implementation on server side has been implemented inside Alfresco with the endpoint alfresco/CMIS atom. So you have two implementations of CMIS inside Alfresco. And for this purpose, you don't have to deal with that. The idea of the Alfresco SDK is to say, we checked which version of Alfresco you communicate with, and we select the default implementation you have to manage. If you want a real simple idea, it's the SDK. It's a real single. It's one API to rule them all. We don't care. You don't care. You don't care about this implementation. Just be simple, be extendable, and use it simply. So what's the principle of the Alfresco Android SDK? We have 3 components, 3 parts, and with that, it's pretty simple. So you have a session. This session allows you to access some services, and these services gives you some objects. So the idea, when you want to create a session, you decide if you want to create a cloud session to deal with the cloud API or repository session for on-premise purpose. When you select this one, you can pass some parameters. So for example, you can select, for example, a specific HTTP invoker that you want to deal with it. So for example, you have to pass for each request, a specific parameter inside your HTTP. So for example, you can implement your own HTTP invoker and then deal with your specific networking. Another one, it's the cache folder. So for example, when we download some information from Alfresco server, we have to store some information in cache inside the device. But because it's possible to cache nearly everywhere in an Android device, there's no specific space reserved, so it's possible to store it nearly everywhere. So you can decide where you want specifically this document goes in cache, for example. And when you have created this session, you simply have to create, to call the create method, and you have access. We return a session object, and with this session object, you can retrieve the service registry, the root folder for the specific, from the server, sorry. Repository information that contains the version number of the Alfresco server, the product name, if it's an enterprise or community version, etc., etc. And we retrieve the authentication provider that is responsible, for example, if it's an OAuth server for the cloud, for example. If it's an OAuth authentication provider, you retrieve the OAuth information inside this one. Next, we can focus on service registry. So you have your session.get service registry, and inside it, you have something that may remember something if you have already implemented something in Alfresco server. It's all the service registry, all services that are available inside this session. So it's activity, command, document, person, blah, blah, blah. And with that, you can just use services from Alfresco server and deal with it inside your application. The other one that is really important, this service registry is customizable. You can extend it, you can create your own service registry, and inside it, you can create your own custom services. So in server side, if you have implemented some web script that is responsible to do a specific feature, you can create your own service that deal with that, implement it in service registry, and have access as if it was simple, known, and default Alfresco services. And with that, so when you use your services, we create some specific object. This object can be a document, a folder, a person, a task. And with this model object, you can do nearly everything that you already know. Of course, this one, because the service registry is customizable, extendable, it's also possible to do exactly the same for the model object. So if you have your custom services, you can implement your own custom object and use it inside your application. So now, the main question, and the question we often hear, it's how I can extend, how I can customize the application and the Android SDK. It's the question we hear often, and this is the question and the requirement we want to apply. Every time, depending on your requirement, it's difficult to say, do you have to implement this side or do you have to go to this side? But I made 3 slides about what is a common pattern. So what you have to know is the philosophy between the Alfresco Android app and Alfresco Android SDK. The app, it's the Alfresco vision of how our mobile users are going to use and are going to access the Alfresco information. So it's really, we really own this part. So between 2 versions, it's possible that we completely broke and remove some part to replace by another part. So it was the case, for example, when we activate in 1.2 the sync service. The sync service required some specific, more complex feature on background. So we used before what is called a loader or a task, an async task, previously on Android, on Alfresco 1.1, 1.2. But in 1.2, we implement a services, an Android services, that do nearly everything on background thread. So it clearly changed the physiognomy and the architecture of the application in background thread. So some package was removed and some other was newly implemented. So because of that, I prefer to warn you that if you want to extend the Alfresco mobile application, it can be dangerous sometimes, but the idea is to focus more on simple things. On the other side, on Alfresco Android SDK, this one is, for me, the Bible. So it's something that is really strong, really we change nearly everything. It's something that we support and we will support for X version, and that is really stable. If you find something on it that doesn't work, you can go to us, you can call the support and say, sorry, there's something that doesn't work, you have to fix it. It's our job, it's not your job. But we have some cases where it's really possible to use the Alfresco mobile application and extend it. I found 3. And the 3 one is about theme, custom model, and new screen. So every time, one common question and one common requirement, it's I want to change the logo of your Alfresco Android application because I want to replace it by the logo of my company or my customer and display it on the top left. That's all. So if you want to replace this one, yes, go for it. Replace the logo, and if you want to change the color, it's the same. It's really easy. It's not necessary to restart an application for that. Simply do it, fork the project on GitHub, and just play with it, replace some information. Next, it's about the custom model. So one main feature of Alfresco Server is the capability to retrieve and to specify some specific properties group, metadata, because we have already in application side this kind of extensibility. It's really easy to add a new property groups if you have a specific document type. So if you want to display an aspect, a specific custom aspect, custom document, or custom action associated to this document, in this part also, it's really easy. We have some documentation about that. You can go for it. And the last one is new screen. But new screen, what I mean by new screen, it's on main menu. You want to create a new one that is called, I don't know, my specific feature that is really awesome. You click on it and you display your own screen. So it's not something that you want to change inside the application, but it's something, it's a screen or an activity or fragment that you want to add to the Android application. So for this one, also, I think it's okay. It's really easy. And between two versions, it's not something that is going to change. So the idea, if you want a reminder, you have to name your application and the application you want to create. It's the Alfresco Mobile by me, by my customer, by the name of my company. It's still the Alfresco Mobile app, but it's a vision of the Alfresco Mobile app by you, the customization by you. On the other side, with the Alfresco Android SDK, the idea is you create your own application, you create your own mobile solution. And the reminder, it's my mobile solution. It's not something, Alfresco is a part of your application, but it's not the main purpose. The idea, we want to facilitate the integration with Alfresco, but for example, you can deal or you can create an application that is a CMIS repository. So, for example, I want to access Alfresco server, I want to access a CMIS repository, and eventually you want to access another cloud services. This one, it's not Alfresco application, it's your application, and we just facilitate, we just make your life easier to retrieve information from Alfresco, for example. And in this specific case, you just have to use the Alfresco Android SDK. Inside it, you can create your own business solution, you can create your own custom services, and you create very easily or very quickly a quick mobile solution for a proof of concept, for example. I want to create, I want to deliver to my customer or to my partner something based on Alfresco Mobile that I already implement in Alfresco Server, and say, okay, this is my solution for the mobile users, for Android users, to my specific requirement I have on Alfresco. So now we have two ways to implement Alfresco Server and customize, extend it. In the near future, and as you heard in the session just before mine, we have a third way. In the future release of Alfresco Server, we will have a specific module for only mobile users. This one will allow you from the server side to define what user experience you want to provide to your mobile users. The idea is clearly, I have an administrator in server side. I want to allow him to change what is possible to do on your device, on their user with their Android devices. This one already exists. In Android 1.3, we already have implemented a beta sample that allows you to display or not some item in the main menu. So, for example, the ID, it's on that dictionary, you create a specific mobile folder, and inside this folder, you create a specific configuration file. In this configuration file, the format is JSON, so it's a friendly mobile format. And inside it, you can define, for example, I want to display the activity menu. If I want to display the repository menu, or if you are on 4.2, if I want to display the shared files or my files, for example. And with that, you don't nearly have nothing to implement. It's just only configuration. And if you compare the three main menus you have on this slide, you clearly see a different approach of user experience. It's mobile. On the left, you have the common one. You have access to everything. It's open. Do everything you want. The one in the middle, it's I just want to use the file. I just want to access my file. You don't have to access to sites. I remove sites in my implementation, just focused on your file and the file I can access. And the last one on the right, it's okay, I have to deal with tasks and get information from my Alfresco web server. And that's all. So 3 different experiences for a different configuration, but with the same server. Nothing to implement, just configure your implementation. The other part is the security. We have defined a specific, we want to define a specific policies for the security reasons. So for example, if a device has been stolen by another third party, we want to say, okay, this application has no access anymore, this device has no access anymore to my Alfresco server. And the last one is another approach. It's what is called app-to-app API. The idea is in Android, it's possible to send what is called an intent. And this intent, it's, for example, I want to create a new document, or I want to open this specific file. For example, in Alfresco, when you want to open a document file, an Office file, we send an intent to all applications that is available inside your device and say, okay, do you have something that can open an Office document? And another application responds, yes, it's me, I can open it. We want to provide the same way, the same ID for your application. So for example, you can create a specific application, and instead of incorporating the SDK, you just have to say, okay, I want to create a document, I want to search information from your Alfresco server, can you give me information? So in this case, you don't have the necessity to implement our SDK. It's very more Android friendly. Now quickly, the survival guide. The idea is, if you have something to search, the references are those 2 links. In here you can find technical documentation and feature documentation. If you want to access to the source code, go to these 2 GitHub projects, fork it, change it, send pull request if you want. Nearly do everything. It's free. It's just for you. If you have some issues, or if you don't understand some specific ID, you have 2 ways. So you can go to the forum and say, okay, please, can you help me? Or if it's on SDK, for example, if you, for example, this specific service don't retrieve the good information, please send us a bug report and we will fix it. Next, here on the lobby part, if you want to discuss some information about the roadmap, the overview of what is possible to do with Alfresco Mobile, etc., etc., please contact these 3 persons. So Marc Dubresson, the product manager of Mobile, that you seen it this morning on the session. Michael Phil, someone in this room and who is responsible to the next session, and me, of course, for the Android part. The last thing, as usual, we are an open source company. We need you. We need your feedback. We need of what you want, what we want to implement, in which way, what's the format we want to implement, etc., etc. Please send us feedbacks. We are already welcome. And thank you. And please don't hesitate to rate my presentation on summit.alfresco.com and say if my English was good or if I talk too much, etc. I'm French, you know, this kind of stuff. And if you have questions, I'm free for 2 minutes, I think, or 2, 3. If not, you can go see me on the lobby. The micro just behind, we have to record it.
Do you have real examples of the Android, real life with the customers?
Yes, we have a session. I don't remember exactly the session, but this afternoon, I think, there's a session that is used the Alfresco Android SDK for paper signature. So they want to. I think it's a contact management. So when you go to a specific to this customer, when you go to this specific office, the sales has a tablet device, and in this device, he developed a specific application to sign a specific contract. So they want to go paperless. Instead of using a paper contract, they use one inside a tablet. They use a specific pen recognition for signature recognition. And one component is the Alfresco Android SDK because all of their content is stored inside Alfresco. And they use this, the Android SDK, to send, after the signature, the content to Alfresco directly from the Android tablet device, for example. And if you want more use case, please talk to Marc Dubresson, the product manager, and we'll give you more example. But yes, it's used. After 1 year, we have more than what I know, 3 or 4 different usage in production, in real life, of our mobile SDK. And maybe some of you have some information, and we're really glad to exchange about it.
Just to add to the answer, the session is starts at 3:50 on the other side.
Perfect. This afternoon.
Just one question regarding, is there any smart way to customize or extend the current application while trying to stay as much as possible compliant with future releases, so that we don't have to code the same changes over and over?
We published the roadmap. For each version, we have the roadmap that explains what we are going to implement. To be honest, I didn't accept when the Android 1.2 was released the huge change I have to do on the architecture side, for the background thread, etc. But to be honest, I prefer to warn you that it's possible that we change something, but now it's pretty cool. We have the sync services, we have all these major parts that are stable now. So there's it's if you have really, if you discover on GitHub, yes, you go to this way, come on, you can do another way, we implement something, please don't hesitate. We can focus on this part and say, okay, we have compatibility services, we can implement compatibility services to support all different parts.
Short?
Really short. One suggestion on my side would be to move very simple things like customization of the themes, colors, and logos on the server side admin, which is really smart because I think everybody will need it. So if there's any option to do that, I would go for that.
It's, for example, the logo one, it's the common one, and it's we didn't find for the moment a simple way on server side. Yes, please use it. It's really inside the Android application, where on how it's implemented in Android, you have to provide these specific images, and it's not possible to change it from the server side. And on this one, I clearly don't. It's possible inside the application, but the small square you have inside your Android device on the home screen, for example, it's clearly not possible. You have to fork it, you have to change the theme, and change the logo. You can do nothing else. Sorry.
Yeah. We've got a use case where we're looking to create content offline and then sync it up when there's a connection available. So have you got any comments on how that is or can be handled?
It's a specific, to be honest, we already have nearly everything you want in terms of services. In terms of services inside the application, we have nearly, it's already available. But the specific case, when you simply said, I want, if I understand well, I want to create a document offline, then I want to sync it. The idea is just how to flag this document to be synced on a specific folder, for example, if I understand well. And it's only this feature to implement. So it's not something really complex because we have already a sync service. This sync service is responsible to retrieve information that you favorite in server side, and then you can edit offline. And the next time you get the network again, and you have access to network, we send it automatically, the change to the server. So for me, I think it's possible, and if you want to talk about it more precisely, there's no problem. It can be a new feature in the future for the mobile app or the SDK, for example. Thank you, everyone.